to another episode of Meet the Expert for vBrownBag. Today I'm here with Paul Cradduck at the Western Pennsylvania UserCon in February 2018. Paul, welcome.
No, thank you.
One thing that I like to do with these is that we really get to know you. Like this is literally like, who's Paul Cradduck, right? So let's start with your introduction and then I'll start doing some questions.
Okay, all right. So Paul Cradduck, we already hit that. VCDX number 244. Currently I work for Round Tower Technologies. We're a medium-sized technical consulting firm. I'm out of Cincinnati and I've lived there for, gosh, 25 years.
Wow.
So I'm from there now.
So how did you, this is the first question I start with, how did you get into IT? How did you find out that you wanted to do IT and how did that happen?
Yeah, so I'm a little weird in that I've always enjoyed IT. When I was really young, our first computer.
Yeah, big.
Yeah, just knee high to a grasshopper, whatever that is, right? We bought the first family computer, right? Like 2 megs of memory, like 100 gig or 100 megabyte hard drive, right? That whole deal, and like all good IT people, I broke it right away, right? So I had to figure out how to reinstall drivers for the sound card, and like as soon as I did that, I was like, yes. This is fun, and then as a side note, I don't know how people get into IT today, but I like to play games because computer, but I didn't have enough memory to do anything, right? So I had to edit command com, auto take back, comment out stuff I didn't want to load, so I could get enough memory to play this football game, which is funny now because I don't even really like sports, but but that's how I was like, oh, this is great. So yeah, that was kind of.
That's not very far from my own story, where I was doing the same thing with Hyman.sys and had to play Wolfenstein and stuff like that. How old are you? You're not very old, are you?
32. No, 33.
You're very young. For a VCDX especially, which is normally like a seasoned architect. So how do you go from, okay, I like computers, to VCDX at 32 years old?
Yeah, good question. So I started out, so after I did that and kind of broke the computer and fixed it, right, walked my way through that. I started doing just some tinkering on the side. I built my own computer when I was 14 or 15, and then kind of through high school had different jobs, nothing really IT related. But right after graduating high school, I started working for Best Buy before they were Geek Squad. So but they became Geek Squad when I was there. So I had the tie and the whole 9 yards, right? So I kind of worked my way up from there, right? It was for me that it was a good job because that's where I honed my troubleshooting skills. It was like, cool, like a new problem every day, right? And you get to see commonalities eventually, but at first it was like, wow, like I don't know. And so I learned troubleshooting kind of iteratively, right? After that, I was like, okay, I really enjoy this. I'm good at it. Now I kind of want to jump up the stack a little bit. So I got my first job at Cengage Learning on a help desk, internal help desk for the Salesforce. And then there was a new set of problems, but still that core troubleshooting thing still worked. But it was, okay, now I'm dealing with Active Directory, now I'm doing DNS, now I'm doing all these other things, right? So I'm walking through all a different set of problems. And that was good for me also because I began to learn business. So on the help desk, you kind of heard all the problems and saw all of that. So not only did I learn the business side and decide, okay, maybe here's where I want to go, maybe not. But I was able to get other skills around more enterprise, architecture.
But you went directly from a job to working. You didn't go like to programming school or systems engineering school or take the Cisco courses.
Yeah, no, I mean I did. My degree is in computer information technology, so I went to Northern Kentucky University. But the thing I found that we've all, I think, found at this point is IT moves too fast for that. So my degree was great, but at the time it didn't include any hardware at all. It was just like, you want to do computers? Great. Here's how to write Java. Cool. Like that's fun, but that doesn't really get my gears turning. So so I began to and I finished that, but when I got my job, I was actually still in college. So I put the degree not on hold, back burner. I finished it in the evenings. So I managed to cram my 4-year degree into 7 years. It fits if you get it, but it does fit there. So, but I finished that out and continued to kind of, to do the help desk. And, we would do actually conventions similar to this for our own internal folks or sales kickoffs, and then I got to really play with hardware and learn things, some scripting, because we would re-image all these laptops, and we'd only have a few days to do it. And I got stuck because I was the newer guy, so I was like, I got stuck doing QA. So I had to log into the laptop, great. Check email, great. VPN connectivity, great. Well, after doing that for 1 year, I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. So I worked with another guy, and he had automated the deployments through just batch, right? It's just a batch script. And I can do that. So I grabbed his, changed up some code, wrote my own, and automated the QA side, which was a ton of fun. And we were able to QA we hit record numbers, right? Which is the team. It's not that's not me. It's just I had a good team, and so that was fun. And then after graduating, I had my first shot at a junior server role, right? I had a friend who, because I was on the help desk, they were decomming some servers. They said, "Great, well, would you like this?" Yeah, sure, why not? And one of the guys said, "Well, what are you going to use it for? Like load music or something?" I was like, "No, I'm going to load ESX." And
so how do you know about ESX though?
My manager on the help desk hands me a CD at one point, and for all I knew, I was like, gosh, she probably pirated this or something. I didn't know what ESX was, right? It was an old 3. I don't even remember, maybe 3.5 disc. He's like, here, you should play around with that. So I grab a desktop because that's all I had, load it up,
and you're like, what do I do now?
What do I do with this? Like it's just a screen. Okay, great. So with the client, and then I couldn't do anything. I was like, well, why can't I build a VM? And it had an IDE hard drive, and IDE hard drives are not supported for that. But I didn't know that at the time. I was like, well, darn. Right. So I was like, I got to get into this. So yeah, at that point, I was like, this is great. And
it's curious because one thing I love about VMware is that it gets you to some parts that you don't understand, but getting past that is not too difficult. Like there's always like you may hit a wall, but it's not a big wall.
And it touched the entire stack, right? I knew I wanted to continue at my IT career. I just didn't know necessarily what I liked. I liked networking. I liked virtualization. I liked storage, compute. I was like, where do I want to go? Well, if I go to VMware, the VMware route, it touches all of that. So I can still, from a career path perspective, I can still learn all of this stuff. So, so playing around with that, they Cengage gave me a shot, and they're like, all right, if you've got some cycles, we'll pull you into some projects if you want to do it, like for free, right? I mean, they were paying me to be a help desk guy, but I was like, in your own time, as long as your boss is cool, great. And so I did that. I loved it, and then there was an actual role opened up in the junior side, and the rest is history. I mean, from there. So I guess fast forward a lot because you asked me a question, and I went super deep. But
no, that's fine. I love it.
Yeah. So after Cengage, that same manager that gave me my first shot, loading ESX and everything, he had left and went to a credit card processor, Vantiv. I don't know if we can say company names, but I just did. So if it's bleeped out, it was something different. In that time, the technology had shifted a little bit. They needed someone to do VMware and Cisco UCS, and I had gotten to begin to play with UCS. I loved it. After being a server monkey for a while and plugging in 50 cables for every ESX host we racked, UCS was a breath of fresh air. I was like, wow, this is great. It's one blade. There's 4 cables on the back. I think this is awesome. So I got to continue up the stack, and that was a PCI compliant environment. So I got to learn some more of the security side, and some of the compliance side, and so that was a really good opportunity.
Yeah.
And then Round Tower kind of came. Well, they didn't come call. Well, they did and they didn't. I knew a person over at Round Tower who had worked with at Cengage who said, "Hey, they've got an opening on the managed services side. Would you like to come?" Sure. So did some interviews, and they didn't quite have a client yet to be able to bring me in. But they said, "We'll just, we'll call you when we have something." In the meantime, Vantiv, which I really enjoy working for, they decided to outsource their all of their infrastructure to a different company. I was like, so we were all, my whole team was out, and so we helped with that transition. And I realized something at that point. I'm 27 years old, and I've been outsourced. you know. And
yeah.
It's like,
you're supposed to be the young hot stuff.
Interesting. Yeah. So that taught me something about the field that I still, I mean, to this day, like 6 years later, I still hold as a core value, which is you can never stop learning, right? Because I was able to call Round Tower and say, hey, I don't know if there's an opening yet, but here's the situation. And in fact, they did actually have an opening, and did an interview, did a technical interview, and boom, there it was. I literally finished my job on Friday, started Round Tower on Monday. So that for me validated what I thought.
Was it the first? I mean, now that I think about it, I haven't been fired yet. But that sinking feeling of your last day is this day must have been great that you were able to call and then start. That's probably why you didn't even take days off, because you were just so worried about getting fired. And
yeah. I mean, in hindsight, I probably should have given myself a week or two of vacation, knowing that. But I just, I was anxious to get into the new job, and yeah, that really validated for me that as long as you continue to learn and continue to look to people that can teach you something. Then job's not a problem. Right?
No,
you'll always be valuable.
Managed service provider is a really cool job, especially with new technology and stuff. What did you learn there? Like, what was very different from what you were doing before?
Yeah, so that's where my career really took a jump, right? The culture there and my peers. There's just a built-in culture to continue to learn and to continue to excel. The thing that was nice about them is at the time, I was employee like 130 something, right? So fairly well established, but still nice and small. So that was huge, because the other two companies I'd been at were 6,000 people. So I was just a number, right? And getting things like training and certification was like, it's okay. But literally my vice president said to me, like, look, if we, not at Round Tower, a previous company said, if we train people, they just leave. Yeah. Which is
completely different from the point of, if you don't train them, they'll stay.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right. So Round Tower actually valued training, and that was one of the reasons I liked the job, because at that point, now it's built in quarterly. I have to get some sort of certification. They had, everyone that I met was like, wow, that's like the top network guy. That's like the top storage guy. This is like the top virtualization guy. A VCDX interviewed me, so I was like, wow, I've got a ton to learn, right? And it's really just
felt small.
yeah, which is good for me.
Yeah. That's when we grow a lot.
Yeah. You can learn, in my opinion, you can learn from anyone, as long as you don't ever put yourself in a position where you think, oh, like I'm whatever, like I'm VCDX, I can't learn anything. Like that's not true at all. As soon as you're in that position, you're losing, you lost your edge. You lost your ability to learn, which I think is crucial. But anyway, so in that, spent a couple of years doing that role. Actually, I was working for Tony Gonzalez, who some of you may know, South Florida vMug leader. And he really pushed me. It was every quarter. It was like, okay, I only had one VCP at that point. So I was, okay, which VCP are we getting? And knocked those out. And after about a year and a half, he's like, all right, you should do the VCAP. And I was like, I don't know, man. That's tough. And so he's like, you can do it. And so we worked. We did some mock sessions and some lab work, and I was like, yeah, great. And I hit DCA and failed it first time.
The first time, especially if you didn't go through like a good lab, it's tough to finish that exam in time.
Yeah, I actually broke the lab. I did the one thing, and Tony will tell this story too if you're interviewing him, but he told me, he's like, do not break the lab. He's like, because I did, when he took it, he's like, that's what I did, and it messed me up. I had to fix it. Well, I broke the lab really hard. Like, ESX at that point, I think we were on 5.5, was supposed to self-fix if you set something wrong on a switch. Like if it takes a host offline, it would roll it back. Yeah. If you set the MTUs wrong, it didn't, for whatever reason. Like in the nested environment, it was broken. I was like, so I couldn't finish the last two questions. So, but even with that, I was like really close, and I was like, all right, I got this. One more week, right? So another week, I do some more training, do some more, lab work, and knocked it out. I was like, this is great, like awesome, VCAP, or this is fun. And then Tony's first sentence to me was like, congratulations. What about DCD?
Yeah. Like, it was not even a period. It was comma.
Yeah. I was like, all right. So DCD next. I was like, okay, like maybe. And and that's a completely different beast. you know, the design scenarios, and now we're looking at, you know, this is
for me. That's DCD is the most beautiful exam Beamer has, because for the first time you have to jump back. It's not lab. It's not get in. It's jump back and learn and read and think differently.
Yeah, yeah. It's pulling. It's can you pull out requirements? Can you pull out, you know, different things? And that is, I like the exam. It's one of the most frustrating. I failed that one first time too. So after bombing that one, I was like, I actually thought I was like, I think I'm doing pretty good. I clicked and it was like failed. How did you know so fast? You couldn't have known. No one human looked at that. So I still had some pushback around it. So I wish. The thing that's tough about testing people in that way is that in a real world scenario, we would probably ask questions, you know, clarify,
back and forth.
Right? That's every good architect does. But in a test, you can't ask a question. You're like, well, is it this or this? Wait, what do you mean by this? Is it, you know? But you can't. So you got best guess, and next took it another time, and was able to squeak it out the second time. So passed, and I was like, yeah, this is great. And then
did Tony come back and just literally say?
Pretty quick. I mean, he was like, congratulations, man, like good job, and like now we were both even playing field, right? We were both VCAPs, and I was like, this is cool. And then he came and said, all right, I'm thinking about doing a VCDX. Would you want to do that? I was like, man, I don't know. Like those were the people that I like, you know, I idolize. You're like, these are like the guys, right? These are the people, like men and women. Like these are like the smartest, you know, the smartest of the smart. Like I don't know if we could do this. I was like, all right, you know, if I step back and said, this is probably the only shot I'll have at it. You know, I'm in a company that's going to support me. I've got a friend who wants to do it. Yeah, I mean, why not? Worst case, we fail, but you know, we'll give it a shot.
You've seen how that happens. You only really lose when you stop trying. So.
Yeah. So we start working on this design, and I asked him like, so when do you want to submit? And he's like, April. And this is like January. I was like, you're kidding me. Like that's a terrible idea. Well, we pushed super hard and got right up to the deadline. We're like, we're just not quite ready. So we pushed off one more submission, which was July at that point, which was really good. You know, I think that's and Naran said it earlier today in the VCDX workshop. Set a date, right? Just set a date, and so we did, and that forced us to get a lot of work done in those first few months. So it was actually three of us. It was myself, Tony, and Alex Carrera. So you know, and for me, I thought that was really good because again, VCDX for me was learning. So we were able to debate within our group. So I like doing group submission just because I was able to sharpen myself on sides that I just didn't know and push back and say and defend why I didn't want to do it. Right. To this day, I don't know if Alex agrees with us not using LACP. I fought him to the tooth and nail, and we're not doing that in this design. Like, I'll do a separate design because I refuse to defend that. It's not defendable, you know. Like, but it's that kind of was just so good back and forth. So, anyway, so we submitted, and then at that time, Round Tower had one VCDX, and we hired Renee Van Den Bedum. So he gave us a lot of feedback, a lot of really good help, and just, you know, kind of mentored us a little on our presentation and how we're gonna do that. And then Byron Schaller came on board, and he passed one submission before us, so it was like awesome. Like we got him to kind of help and sift us a little bit, right? Ask us the hard questions, and then we submitted, and I got to spend some very grueling days in Palo Alto, you know, picking apart every little bit, and I got destroyed in a mock session on the Sunday before I was defending. Like 2 days later, it was like I was just absolutely torn up, right? And I brought my wife out, and I came back and to the hotel and I said, I'm not gonna pass this. There's no way. That was terrible. There's no way I'm gonna pass this. There's no way at all. And so I took a shot and came out of it. You know, did the defense and did the whole design scenario. I thought, yeah, maybe I did okay. I don't know how I did. And then I woke up in the morning and I was sure I passed, or I was sure I failed. I woke up and just thought of all the things that I didn't say. I was like, when they were asking this, I should have said that, and like it's terrible, and well, whatever. and yeah, but turns out I passed. So yeah, it was good, and again, that didn't stop my learning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I then went and took the DCD for 6, like 6-8 months later. I failed it the first time. I just so I think for me that just kind of validates. It's like, look, we're all people, we're all learning, and there's no one person that knows everything all the time. So yeah.
Okay.
That was kind of the story.
So,
of how
so
I started.
that's what's maybe a year ago that you got the VCDX?
Would have been a year. It was, gosh, almost a year and a half now.
Year and a half?
Yeah.
What have you been doing since? Like, obviously you got a big, I got it.
Yeah.
But
at first,
real world,
Right.
did you continue doing VCDX designs, or did you actually go and say, well, now what I want to learn is something else?
Yeah. So I was in managed services still, and so I had a conversation with my manager and a few other people and said, hey, what was the is there a benefit for the company to have VCDX within managed services? Because we don't really do a ton of architecture, and I kind of want to do it. So let's have a conversation. So we had some good conversations, and I started to ask people people that I considered smarter, and said, where do you think the industry is going, right? So I had lunches, with Renee and Byron and everyone's, and different people said, tell me, in your viewpoint, where's the industry going, right? So it's a really good conversation, and then we, landed. I kind of landed. They were spinning up a new cloud DevOps practice. I thought, yeah, that feels like the next wave. The thing I loved about VMware, I feel, towards cloud and DevOps, right? When you see that automation and some of that stuff just work, it's like, wow, this is really cool tech. So kind of just following the same principle, right? That I was when I was 8 years old or whatever, fixing a computer. Right? This is cool tech. No, I'm just,
go that way.
Going that way. So and I could be wrong, right? The cloud thing could bust, but that's okay. I
don't think it'll bust.
Yeah, maybe probably not. But it's, even if it does, it's I think the thing that, again, getting outsourced taught me was don't hang your hat on one technology, right? So I've continued to, while I'm trying to learn more the Azure side of things, because we already had some AWS expertise. We didn't have as many Azure resources. So I said, hey, would you like to learn this? I was like, yeah, I think I would. So yeah, that's great. So let's play with this. And so in the meantime, we needed some Google resources as well. So I got my Google Certified Architect certification, and then kind of rolled more into the Azure side, and have been learning that, spending time in Chef, trying to get desired state configuration stuff working, trying to do less things manually. Yeah. Okay. So write that stuff into code. So yeah, that's kind of where I've been. I'm not sure I'm good at it yet, but
but you'll get there.
But I'm learning.
You won't stop. So we talked about your technical career, and I always have fun because I get so many stories out of it. Tell me something about yourself. So we're trying to get to know Paul Cradduck that has not shined through yet, because I hate painting an incomplete picture. So tell me more about yourself and something that you like people that are trying to get to know you to know.
Let's see. Along with tech, because I do just like, outside of enterprise level tech, I do actually just like gadgets. So I'm a gadget guy. If I can automate, home automation's fun. I don't have enough money to really sink into that, but it's fun to play with, right? Branching out a little from there, I really enjoy cooking. Do a little of my own home brew. I live in Kentucky, so bourbon's a thing. I don't make my own because that would be illegal, but I enjoy that. I also really enjoy audio, so both home and car audio. So, but it's kind of the same thing for me, right? Things that have electricity running through them, I generally enjoy. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So tell me about the beard.
The beard. So this
the awesome beard.
Thank you. So it's double-edged. When I first got married, I had nothing, and we've been married, my wife and I, we just did our 10-year anniversary this last October, and she was like, I don't know if I'd like you with a beard. I was like, okay. Well, so she went away for a couple weeks, and I grew just like this little chin strap, right? Nothing crazy. but when she saw it, she's like, oh, okay, I actually kind of like it. Like, don't shave it, but don't, you know, like that's great. Like, leave it there. Cool. So so I did, and then just a few years later, I realized that that I'm running after clearing all the hair off my head. So. And I did some research on that.
You started pulling.
Yeah, just pulling it, and it pulled right through. Yeah, that's what happened. So I realized I was like, okay, I can either focus on the things that I don't have, or I can focus on what I do have. So I decided that I'm going to start, like, I'm gonna grow the beard again. My wife was like, I don't know, and then she went away on a trip again, and I just started.
Hello, surprise.
Yeah, she'll stop going on trips without me now because she's like, I don't know what he's going to do next. So I grew it a little longer, and actually it was right about the time I passed my VCDX. I hadn't shaved, and yeah, for over a year. It was 13 months of just going after it, growing, and I'm a little analytical, so I did some research. I was like, okay, apparently the same hormone that causes male pattern baldness also causes beard growth. It's like, I'm going to capitalize on this.
Yeah.
So let's just see how far. And apparently,
turn my weakness into strength.
Exactly. Apparently, beards will have a terminal length, so they will stop growing at a maximum. You know, it's like built in genetically, right? So it's like,
which I've always found to be incredible how the body even knows that. Right?
Yeah, where that was programmed from. So I'm trying to see how far I just want to see where it'll stop at this point. It's like, it's been 15 months, and I was like, okay, well, let's keep going. Now, my wife did say last Christmas we had Christmas, like, family photos. She's like, you need to get it just
at least cleaned up.
Just clean it up, right? So I went to a legit barber and, you know, trimmed the sides and, you know, kind of shaped it a little bit. But it's been another 3 months since then, so just kind of keep going. See, eventually it'll stop, I think. If it doesn't,
they told me.
Yeah. So yeah, it's I don't know, it's fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I always recognize you when especially lesbian world. You were hanging out with, I think Byron also had a beard at some point.
Yeah, he still does.
So when you guys were two bearded guys were walking around, what was it called? That bar, Candy something.
Oh yeah.
I was like, they're there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing, right? Like, people, I don't know, for whatever people remember, you know, facial hair. So I get remembered, I guess, a little bit. I'm terrible at names, so that's something that anyone should probably know. I'm sure I've met, you know, like, I can meet a ton of people, and it's just, and don't feel offended if I don't remember you. I will remember your face, I just will never remember your name, and it'll be way too late to ask, you know. So it's like, yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for our meeting Paul Cradduck, and I really thank you for your time, man.
Yeah, thanks, Ariel. It's good to hang out.